Awesome. Well, welcome to our pop-up training tonight. I'm so excited, Kelsey Chapman, and she's cool, of course. Her name says it all, right, Kelsey?
Oh, boy, you would have to drop that, wouldn't you?
Yes. No, but she is seriously just an amazing person. She has been helping us with Instagram for probably the last few months, year or so maybe. Almost probably getting close to that. I don't know.
For a long time.
For a while. And she just is always so resourceful. If I have questions, she's right there to help me get away. If you're jumping on, if you could mute yourself, that would be awesome. But anyways, I'm just really, really excited because she's just one of those Instagram gurus. I think she's probably going to share her story, but what she had shared with me at one time was that she kind of fell into it. She blew up her own Instagram and then just had this desire that was laid on her heart to help other people do what she had just done. And she has other avenues of her business. This is just one part of it, but she has Instagram trainings that you can sign up for and all the things. But she is jumping on live with us tonight to give us some helpful tools and tricks and tips to really help each of us grow our Instagram.
And I don't know about you guys, but I would love to just fall into some Instagram knowledge and grow my Instagram by falling into it. So by all means, Kelsey, give us all the information and help us develop a better Instagram following and a better Instagram account, because we're ready. We've got our notes and we're ready to do this thing.
Yeah. If you don't, make sure do have your piece of paper and your pen and take notes, because she's going to drop some bombs.
And
bombs.
I can send y'all my slide deck too, if that's helpful at the end.
Oh, that would be amazing.
And then I know y'all are recording, so. But I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Kelsey and Dean. I love you guys. So I'm excited to be with your team. Guys, I have a presentation I'm going to do, but I'm an open book. I really believe there's enough for all of us to go around. And so I've specifically worked with Beachbody coaches since I got started. I really fell into kind of working in the fitness industry. It's probably a third of my clients every month since the very beginning. And so I know your niche better than any. So hit me with all the specific questions. I'm in it. One thing I've even been noticing with clients is kind of the evolution of attraction marketing as algorithms are changing. So don't let me forget to talk about that, because with current algorithms, it's not as simple as just building it and they will come, because now you got to make sure the people who are choosing to follow you actually see your content, which is a whole nother thing. So we'll talk about that. Feel free to, drop any questions in the chat. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And I'm going to pull the chat up so I can see any questions along the way. Can you guys see? Kelsey? Yep, cool. I've got a thumbs up from you guys. Okay. I'm going to zoom out a little. I like doing it in preview because it's the easiest one to work with. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to turn Instagram into a profit machine. I'm going to share my story with you guys along the way. And again, don't hesitate to ask any question. Nothing's taboo here. So I prefer to share it all. I used to be scared at the beginning of, what if someone doesn't like that method? And that's fine. If you hate a method I talk about, we'll talk about it. It's no big deal. Let's dive in. The game plan today is to teach you how to turn Instagram into a profit machine. Here across the board, I do this presentation all the time, are some of the biggest struggles I hear with Instagram. I struggle with posting consistently. Should I post everywhere? I mean, now we've got the feed, we've got stories, we've got highlights featuring our stories, we've got Instagram TV, we've got it all. What the heck are highlights? I get that a lot. And then honestly, one I didn't put here that we'll certainly talk about, I should have added this earlier, but conversions, that's the biggest thing. And obviously that's what you guys are here for. That's what you care about, is using Instagram as a tool to drive profits for your business. And then of course, each of you are going to want to be gaining different team members than your, friend here on the team, because, you don't want to be trying to shoot for the same person to build under your downline. So we're going to talk about conversions, because that's the goal, and that's a big part of what I do every day. Is it's not worth someone to spend their money with me if they don't see conversions. And so I take that really seriously. My clients pay me upfront. And so I want it to work for them. I really believe that Instagram can be a tool for you to turn those followers into customers. It just sometimes comes down to tweaking and refining and kind of really playing the long game with Instagram. But I do believe it can be a profit machine for you. So my goal for you today is to, I forgot when I touch my screen, it goes past. My goal for you today is to feel confident in connecting with your desired audience on Instagram, clearly communicating your brand story on Instagram, positioning yourself fun, but it did not yield a lot of career opportunities. I basically studied geography for 4 years and culture, and it was a blast, but I ended up kind of doing a day job I hated. I had been told since even back in high school, you've got to go into marketing. You've got to go into marketing. And I'm like, no, that is not for me. I am going to do nonprofit work and do more noble things. That's what I thought at the time. And so I, ended up in the nonprofit sector and hated my life. Like probably many of you before you went into building your own business, you were probably overworking and underpaid. And that's exactly what I was doing. So I needed something to feed my passions. And I just launched a side job blogging and using Instagram as a creative outlet. I had no intention of really diving into digital marketing, but I had dreamt of being a writer since I was a little girl, and I knew if anyone was ever going to read my blog, I needed an audience. If anyone's going to join your team, you need an audience to be invited to join it. And so we all come up against this dilemma. We all start at ground zero, but I promise if I can do this, so can you. It's super simple strategy. It just takes a little bit of time. And so I kind of set out to learn everything there was to know about Instagram. My first turning point came, I touched my screen again. My first turning point came in just a few months. I was able to quit my day job and match my salary. I built a client portfolio that went from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 clients a month. But I bought into the idea that hustle would build the life I want. And guys, I get it. Like no matter where you are building your business, you're bombarded with all the strategies and all the things every single day, and a Facebook ad that promises you the perfect method to make $1 million tomorrow. And I bought into all of it. And because of my beliefs around hustle and doing all the things, my fear always lingered. My stress levels were insane. That's something I've had to work on throughout my whole trajectory. And I believed all the entrepreneurial lies. I was doing all the things. I spent thousands of dollars on Facebook ads, tried every marketing strategy in the book. I spent $10,000 on Facebook ads on a credit card. Worst decision of my life. And guess what? I ended up being a slave to my business and every marketing technique imaginable. So I decided to simplify, and I went back to the basics with Instagram, just back to what I started with. And that was when I really kind of hit my sweet spot. I started with just elbow grease. I had no money. I was poor. And I just had to, I just learned Instagram for myself. I, gained 10,000 followers in my first 3 months. It's a little bit different time nowadays, but still, I do believe you can grow and grow steadily. But then once I saw these Facebook ads, I became the target audience of all these marketing strategies, and I implemented them all. And I just ended up in a haze and confused and really, really stretched thin. So about 2 years ago, the summer of burnout, 2017, I just went back to the basics, and I really only went back to, I dabble a little bit in Facebook ads, but I do not use that as my main marketing strategy. I use Instagram. And I know that you guys are probably seeing a lot of trending moving towards Instagram from Facebook. And I think that is the primary space to be marketing now. And so by going back to the basics with Instagram, I created a successful, profitable business that's sustainable. I created a 6-figure business in under 2 years. Built a highly engaged audience of 50,000 followers. And in full transparency, that first year, 40,000 of them came. So it's been steady the last 2 years, but it's been better and it's been good. And so the last few years have slowed down in follower acquisition, but they're converting because they were the right kind of followers. I also started as a fashion blogger. So I had like a whole year of because I changed course, my followers just plateaued. I positioned myself as an expert in digital marketing, launched a successful podcast, launched a retreat, and built the life I dreamt of, freedom of finances and time. And I'm sure that's why a lot of you guys are in this. You want to really maximize this social media platform I don't want to teach you a strategy that's going to take 7 hours of your day. The goal is to quantify this into an appropriate amount of your time. I am an Instagram girl, and I don't want to waste my life building an Insta life. We have better things to do. And so my goal for you today with these strategies, and then whatever we cover and whatever you'd like to cover in the Q&A, is to make this bite-sized and manageable for you, because you do not need to even be spending 2 hours a day on Instagram. You run a business. And so it should fall in, the appropriate chunk on a pie chart of your business. You have other things to do. So we're going to make this super manageable and take out the overwhelm, because I get it. I've felt it. I've really fallen prey to doing all the things because, on me and an honor system to uphold of I can't teach outdated strategies. People pay me to do this for them. And so they need to work or my butt's on the line. So we're always adapting over on my team. And I've always got kind of presentations that I find to be the latest and greatest information. Because of these strategies, my clients have been able to build awareness in their local community, build e-commerce platforms, land book deals. And then I think this last one you guys are going to enjoy, build fitness empires, filling 5+ spots to their program each week. That's not every week. And that's not every client, but sometimes you hit this sweet spot with targeting. We're gonna mainly focus on building connectedness with your people, but a secondary focus that I want to cover in the Q&A is targeting. We have got to figure out who your specific people are, and your people are going to look different than your friends' people, because while I tell the tale all the time of my 2 Courtneys I worked with. One Courtney wants to target Beth Moore girls who do Bible study with their small group and, live a faith-based life. And my other Courtney wants to target moms who cuss and drink beer, and then the next Courtney wants to target someone who's a mix of both. And that's probably where I land. So, I think every single one of you on this team, while you might be friends and similar, you're probably attracting someone a little bit different than the next girl. So I really want you to think throughout this presentation, not only how you're building connectedness with the followers you have, but when you think through the followers you want to gain, they're probably a lot like you. They're probably spending time in ways you're spending time. They're probably following brands and influencers you're following. And so I want you to think through that during this presentation. So this can be your story too, but before we get started, let's talk about expectations. I just covered that a little bit. It really comes down to targeting. Nowadays we're not growing 1 million followers overnight, but what we can do is gain real, relevant, a steady pace of followers. Maybe it's slow and steady, but it's the right people. 500 relevant followers are better than 5,000 fluffy numbers, because you all know it doesn't take 5,000 to build a profitable team. And so I really believe that with some legwork of thinking through, who are your people, where are they hanging out, where are they following along on Instagram, just like you defined your customer segment for your business, or if you open a brick and mortar in your community, you're going to define, how old is my person, where do they spend their money, all of that. You're going to do the same for Instagram. You're going to really think through, where are they spending their time, how can I target them, how can I engage with people, and do that in an appropriate amount of your time a day. Coca-Cola doesn't waste their marketing dollars or their time marketing to moms at Whole Foods. They market to people at movie theaters. And so I want you to think through who your ideal team members are, i.e. followers, because they've got to start by following you. And then we're going to talk through this presentation mostly about building connectedness, because I think that goes hand in hand with attraction marketing that is so popular in the fitness community, but nowadays we just have to take a little bit more action on top of that. And so we have to have these calls to actions, these invitations to conversation through the content we deliver to our audience. And we really have to build that connectedness, because, when someone like me has 17 people popping into my DMs every day asking me to join their team, it's someone's essence, it's who they are that sets them apart enough for me to want to work with that one person. And so we're going to help you guys build your connectedness with your audience, so someone chooses you, so that they're attracted to your team versus another, or repelled from your team if they're not the right fit, because you don't want the wrong fit on your team. So, okay, I'm going to get to it. Gone are the days when attraction marketing on autopilot drives sales. I'm a believer in attraction marketing because I don't think it's too in your face. I love it. But with current algorithms, I mean that they're changing, and it seems like they're changing every day. So with that, we have to adapt. I've heard a lot of commentary on these algorithms lately, and people just being really frustrated. But the best thing we can do is to not complain, but to adapt, because that's how we're going to rise to the top, not just sitting in what's been working. So I am a big believer in building connectedness. And I really believe that connectedness leads to sales. It's the one thing that sets you apart from the next girl who has access to the same program for her team that you do. Often, the number one deciding factor in someone deciding to work with you over the next person is your essence. It's who you are. So our goal here is to help you really pull out of you and massage out of you what makes you you, what makes your team you. And these are the same conversations I have with clients. I have a client who we've been having a conversation for months of, let's try this audience, let's try that audience. And I finally said, you know what, I want you to go talk to your best friend who is, kind of running parallel to you in your fitness business. And I want you to ask her who she sees as your team member and as your ideal client, because it seems like you're having a hard time really defining it because you feel multi-passionate. But sometimes a friend can see that for you. They can say, I recognize that you keep attracting team members like XYZ. So why don't you focus on that? And so again, if you're a mountain biker and building a team full of mountain bikers, that totally set you apart than the next person who isn't a mountain biker, so she's not going to be able to offer that to her downline. That conversation or working the fitness regimen into spending so much time outdoors on bicycles. I've had a girl, and this works in every industry. I've had a client hop on a call with me for business coaching and read a competitor who has a way bigger audience than me and a way more established resume per se in the space we were talking about. And she read her post word for word. And then she didn't name who it was, but I went back to the post and I was like, oh, that's who she was talking about. And I realized, oh, she really just connected with my essence over that girl's. And that girl has 5,000 people in her program that connect with her essence over me. If you really believe there's enough piece of the pie to go around, it's okay that you're repelling the wrong fit for your team and attracting the right fit. That's a good thing, because we all know what it's like to work with the wrong type of person. So have you ever worked with someone that you couldn't clearly tell what they did? Have you ever encountered a business or an organization or a mission that you couldn't connect with and questioned its authenticity? Yes, of course. I mean, we've experienced them in probably every capacity. You probably have had a hard time believing them because they haven't established connectedness, or the like, know, and trust factor, as we often like to call it. This is a huge problem and very common in the Instagram space because we're so obsessed with numbers that we forget the importance of establishing connectedness and trust for potential new followers who could turn into consumers. I had a friend, and I know email lists aren't as important in this space, but we'll talk a little bit about that at the end, who built a 6-figure business with less than 1,000 subscribers and virtually 0 social media presence. And so I want you guys to really connect with the idea that numbers aren't always the answer. It's connectedness with the people that you have. That's the answer. Because I bet you probably have enough people in your sphere of influence. Of course you want to grow. Of course you want to expand. I do too. And I've used Instagram to do that. But to start, you can connect with the people in your sphere of influence, build that connectedness, and they'll convert. I see it every day. So today we're going to talk about 2 ways to create connectedness on Instagram. We're going to most importantly and primarily cover clearly communicating your brand story. This is going to really draw out of you who you are, what sets you apart, what makes you different, what content to put in your feed and your stories and your highlighting, your Instagram TV, all the things. And really is going to be the focus today, creating that brand story for your brand, for who you are. And then by establishing authority in your niche. That's a little bit more simple, but powerful. So we're going to cover it. But we're going to dive into telling your brand story. And I've got 4 key factors I want you to cover in the top 9 photos of your feed. And so every set of 9 photos, I want you to rotate through these 4 key factors. And you can write them down. But again, I'll be sure to send out the slide deck after this. Kelsey has a recording. And so we've got you covered. But I want you to cover 4 key factors when you are curating your feed for the week or the month. I personally love to plan my content a month in advance. I know sometimes if you're doing a program, you might want to be posting in live time, and I totally get that. But I want you to cover these 4 key factors because I think for a new consumer, it allows them to understand who you are and what you offer as soon as they get to your feed. Often they are not going to take the time to scroll down beyond 6 or 9, maybe if you're lucky, 20 photos before, their attention span, which has all been shortened by the current state of media, they're going to drop off. So we want to compel them or communicate to them that what you have to offer is a right fit for them when they get to your feed. So this is for the new person, but it also will remind those followers who have already been following along with you the kind of 4 main facets of who you are and what your brand offers. And if you find that you have more than 4 or each category maybe composes 2 or 3, that's okay. This is flexible. It's fluid. It doesn't have to be rigid. But I do think it serves as a framework for you to really cover and highlight to someone at a glance that you're really trying to communicate what you offer quickly to a new follower. So I'm going to breeze through them real quick and then I'll come back. We've got expertise, personality, practicality, and unique value proposition. So I'm going to come back to those last 2, so don't worry, they're not gone. But expertise, I love to use Casey Ho of Blogilates. Do any of you guys follow her? She's super fun. She's a fitness gal. I really like to use her as an example for this whole section because I think she does a killer job. So when you get to Casey Ho's feed, you quickly see she's a fitness educator. She's got quick clips across her video. You see her in fun workout attire. You see meal plans. Her feed has evolved over the years, but overall, you get to her feed and you're going to quickly realize her expertise is fitness. So you guys can relate to that. That's an easy one. Then we've got your personality. This is the space to weave tidbits in about you or the brand. If any of you listen to anything Jenna Kutcher, that mac and cheese reference is to make her memorable. It's not the fact that she just wants to tell you that every single time she hops on a podcast or on Instagram. She's weaving in components of who she is to make her memorable, for you to associate her to everyday things that remind you of her. It's actually brilliant. And so for me, my followers are going to get a heavy dose of sassy real talk in the stories, because I often am a little bit different than people in my industry. I'm maybe not as cookie cutter, or a little rougher around the edges. I like to use humor. I love sugar and ice cream. So you'll often hear me reference the straight and narrow, although you'll be proud. I'm at the gym 5 days a week nowadays. But I really have woven in this personality tidbit. You even see it as you scroll through my feed. It used to have a lot of bright and airy colors, but I felt like I was starting to people seeing me. And so I've really worked hard to put that into my feed, to have these funny stories that I save in my highlights, to, even though I have a faith-based audience, put my love for hip hop music in there. And I don't care if people are mad at me about it. And so weaving in these little personality components that make you you is actually important, because there are a lot of fitness coaches and they're all DMing everyone on Instagram. What makes you you and sets you apart? Because I bet you that mom who's so tired, who needs a way out, she wants to leave her day job, she's going to want to join the team of someone like her. And while it may be scary to differentiate yourself from, the next girl who's your competitor, that's actually going to serve you well in building that connectedness with your ideal person. So writing down those personality things, those things that all your friends in real life know, that make you you, that are funny, they're your quirks. We want to know those. We want to build this connectedness with you, and it does set you apart. Practicality. Ask yourself, what are practical things your consumer can do now? What tips and tricks can you offer? I'm not saying give away the whole grocery store. Don't give away, a 60-day meal plan for free on Instagram, but give away practical components. Going back to Casey Ho, she does these 60-second videos that are floor workouts that have some music overlaid. Don't know how that works with licensing on Instagram. Y'all know better than me. But she does these quick practical workouts, and you better believe most people are not compiling all 100 of her videos she's ever done and been like, well, that's enough for me. I don't need to buy anything from her. She gave me everything in the free section. Like, no one works that hard. So they're going to get the tip of the iceberg from her quick practical video on Instagram. They're going to say, man, that floor exercise kicked my butt. I'm going to go buy her program. And so it's a very practical takeaway. It's bite-sized. It takes you no time to put together. And I know a lot of you guys do this in your stories. And my friend Caroline does a great job. I really suggest finding people in your industry that you and I know each of you are probably really inspired by those of you walking alongside each other here on your team, but find people that you're like, oh, I could show up in my stories that way. My friend Caroline posts her workout with her toddler beside her every single day. And she pulls her phone up and she scrolls through her computer as she's picking between Autumn's program or so-and-so's program or whatever. And then she picks her program, and then you see kind of the next bit of her stories that she's probably recorded. She hasn't sat and hit record on her stories the whole time. She recorded it on her iPhone camera while she did it, and then used Snap to cut it up and posted it. And like the wonderful concept that I think, did Shailene kind of coin attraction marketing. I'm not sure, but she doesn't say what workouts she does, but she's, sharing what she's doing very practically. Like, hey, I'm a mom. I still work a day job. I'm in my gym in my garage. And this is practically how I care for myself every day. And so guys, I want you to think through, and this one for most of you is going to be pretty similar. How can you show up and offer little practical tips for your followers that they might try and say, man, that enhanced my day. I tried that quick workout and it was actually a teeny bit of a program I was doing, if y'all are allowed to do that. And I might want to join her team. So practical, I think you guys, we can also brainstorm in the Q&A time how you guys could practically do this, but offering those practical components in your feed. And then lastly, your unique value proposition. This kind of blends in with personality here, but I want you to showcase what sets you apart and answers the question without them asking. Why should they go with you instead of someone else? Maybe you are still working a day job and you can really relate to that mom with a 6-month-old who still has to get up and go to work every day, has to, be the one who has to adapt to all the schedules and all the things and still somehow try to figure out how to get her workout in. That is very relatable when you've also got someone who doesn't have kids. Or you are the person who doesn't have kids and you're going to build a team of people just like you. And so often in any type of business other than a brick and mortar that serves everyone, you're going to attract people who are typically just a few steps behind you and living a pretty similar trajectory as you. So you can be the person just a few steps ahead, offering a hand backwards and say, come along with me. I've got you. I'll show you how I did it. And so I love this unique value proposition. And I'll give an example of my personal experience with this. And you might need someone who knows you and knows your business well to help pull this out of you. Sometimes we can't see this for ourselves. My mentor looked at me and said, Kelsey, you discount yourself. You get your panties in a bunch over Jenna Kutcher and Hillary Rushford and all these Instagram educators. And they're amazing. They're teaching thousands of students Instagram, but they're not still running accounts for people. So your unique value proposition is that you have some street cred. You've got to make this work every single month. And so for me, that I wove that into all of my messaging. I was like, you're right. And so, sometimes it takes a friend. I've been doing that for 3 years before I really could pull out that unique value proposition. With my business strategy, I still pull out like, hey, I didn't start with an investor. My husband was in school. We were poor. I had to start a business with no money. So I'm in it for the scrappy people, the bootstrappers. And so I'm a big fan of pulling out those components of your story that make you you, because that's going to attract that person just a few steps behind you who wants to join your journey, because you show them that it's possible for them too. And I think that's what we all want. We want someone to be our guide. I highly 10 out of 10 recommend building your story brand. I pulled some of this structure from it. He doesn't teach it in these ways pertaining to Instagram, but Donald Miller, building your story brand, really talks about creating a story out of who you are and weaving that into all of your messaging for your business, because everyone in life is looking for a guide. We have movies, we have political campaigns based off of this story arc of you've got the hero and you're not the hero, your client's the hero. And then they find their guide to get them through life. And you are their guide when it comes to health. So if you can position, share parts of your story that make you you and that set you apart and make you unique, you might be the guide someone's looking for. And I think we're all looking for a guide in each facet of life. And so I really believe in this methodology. We've got expertise, practicality. Oh, I'm skipping. Expertise, personality, practicality, and unique value proposition. And I think if you weave these into your feed, we're covering your feed right now, but of course you can weave these into your stories. They just disappear after 24 hours. So this is what lives forever. This is when someone gets to your feed, they can scroll through and kind of get a feel for who you are in those top 9 photos. We're moving on to stories now. I want you to ask yourself these questions, though. When someone gets to your feed, they need to understand who you are in 30 seconds or less. And that's with your feed, that's with your bio, your highlights, all the things. But I want you to ask yourself these questions. Does the consumer understand what you do by glancing at your feed? Are the key components of your business/brand highlighted in your feed? And what do you want the consumer to feel when they get to your feed? I'm sure you want them to feel things like, this is possible for me. Oh, they've made it simpler. Like, it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. I feel hope. I feel like things could change. I feel positive. You know, creating those feeling words and really weaving that goal into how you create content matters. And so, because those feelings are what compel people to buy or to sign up. And so, again, we'll have a replay, so don't worry about missing anything. But I'm going to move on to your Instagram bio, and I have just a pretty simple breakdown for this. Not only should someone understand what you do through your photos, your bio should tell them. So one thing I like to say here is you've got your name and your title. That's where we're going to start. And I don't have it here because I haven't changed it. But one thing that I like to say you can do here is you can have your name, but then you could also have like a little symbol and then a title of what you do. And so an example of that is I was looking for a copywriter at one time, and I just searched copywriter in Instagram's search bar. And a girl popped up because she had put copywriter in that same line as her name. And so it works as SEO, as a search term. So if there's something that you could, like fitness coach, accountability coach, Teddy from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, if anyone knows what I'm saying, she's really made accountability coach popular. So people might be looking for accountability coaches right now. But you can really use this name section right here and fit in a title with it so that as people are searching for that title, they might just happen to stumble across your profile. And so I like that functionality. Second, I like for you guys to develop a pretty specific tagline here. So I see taglines all the time that are more descriptive, like love my husband, my dog, my kids. They've got emojis with the husband and the kids, or the wife and the kids, or whatever. But I actually like to have a little bit more of a descriptive about tagline. So again, it plays into that someone understanding who you are and how you can show up and serve them. Like, oh man, I was just scrolling my feed today and talking to my coworker about how I'm so tired and have no time for fitness. I can't make it to the gym, but it'd be amazing to be able to knock it out at my house every morning, or something like that. And so again, coming up with a compelling tagline, it doesn't have to be perfectly kitschy and glossy. It can be, simple, but helping women to rein in their health or whatever. And so taking some time to hash that out, again, thinking through that personality component of who you are. Mine changes sometimes, changes with the season changes. It changes if I'm focusing on something else for a season. But I really do advocate for leveraging that space and not just wasting it with adjectives, really communicating what you can offer. Next, this might feel a little countercultural, but I, instead of a link tree, like to have, which I know link trees are great, but you're giving those website clicks to someone else. And so if you really want a place to, and I know not all of you are running Facebook ads or Instagram ads, but you might get there one day. And I think our future is build that audience on Instagram now, but we're going to be paying to boost our posts to those audiences in a year or two. When you get those people over to your website and you have a Facebook pixel on your website, and that might be like, don't worry if you're not there, but you do want that traffic going to your website because you can retarget those people with ads when that day comes. The goal is to use Instagram without spending money, only elbow grease in those beginning phases. But if you do want to start running ads, Linktree is basically taking all of those page views from you. So if you get them over to your website or a landing page with your pixel, you can run an ad that retargets to anyone who visited your website in the last 180 days. And so one thing, during the Q&A, don't let me forget, I'll pop in a friend's example of a website, but if you really do want that link tree, make it on your own website, just little boxes and squares. And you can make a replica of Linktree. You're just capturing them on something you own versus giving that to someone else. But I actually don't even do that. But I do know that with multiple programs or sign up forms, you might want to place with multiple options, kind of like Linktree provides. But I actually advocate for putting a freebie here. And if any of you noticed, maybe a week and a half or two, it's probably 2 weeks ago at this point when Instagram was down for the day, I cannot say enough, build that email list, get those followers over to an email list. And I know that it feels not urgent when you can convert those followers straight from social to a client, but conversions on sales actually go up through an email list. And so even for me, I don't typically cold sell any of my programs on Instagram. I use Instagram as the top level of my funnel, get them to click over to this freebie here in my profile, and I talk about it in my stories. I send a postcard to people, and maybe it's a meal plan or a grocery list or a 5-day challenge. But get them onto your email list so that maybe you can shoot them out a blast once a week or once every other week or once a month and invite them into your latest program. And emails yield better conversions than selling just on social. And so I'm a big fan of getting those followers over to your list. So I always have a compelling offer here in my profile. And I'm a big believer because, again, I think we've seen, I'm sure since many of you have started your business, this is an ever-changing landscape, and we're at the mercy of algorithms, of software changes that could affect our businesses. And so we want to get those followers over to your email list. So God forbid something happens to Instagram, we're taking those people with us. We're at least allowed to communicate to them where we're going. I don't think it's going anywhere. I just think it'll change and evolve. And so we want to get those people in an avenue that it's like renting versus owning. I mean, you don't own people, but getting them over to a list that's more permanent versus the space that we kind of rent for now. Lastly, we've got your highlights, and I love this functionality. I know probably most of you guys already get this, but I just want to cover that quickly. This is a great way to cover those facets of your business that make you you. So maybe one section is a meal plan, one's kind of you talking about your grocery shopping hauls. Another section is kind of what you're doing each morning, saving those stories of you doing your workout and saving it there so it can live forever. Because when someone new gets to your feed, they can say, oh, these are kind of the 5 pillars of what makes following along with her, him. And so I love using this space. Mine are actually even different than what I have in the highlights now in this graphic, but it's a place where I'm like, these are the things I want to showcase to someone new, so that if someone misses my stories or someone just now stumbles across my feed, they can kind of get a quick overview of what I do, and it's a way to save those stories so that they live on forever. And if you don't know how to save your story to your highlights, you just, once the story's live in your Instagram stories, you can just hit a little heart on the bottom right corner to save to your highlights. Super simple. At the end, if I even need to do any screen flows, I have some software where I can share my screen with you all. So lastly, we've covered the feed and the bio, but we're going to how to tell your brand story in your Instagram story. So I think this is the most important space for you guys. I want you guys to use this space to showcase your why. Why do you do what you do behind the scenes, and allow people to connect with the essence of your brand? I describe the feed as a place that's a little more polished, and we're starting to see like a demand actually from followers of like, please post more real things. People want to see more real life, but your Instagram stories is a place to be even more kind of real and raw, no filters. People are just tired of everything being overly curated and perfect. And so I think stories was the saving grace of Instagram. And, you know, with just media trajectories, they say 80% of media is supposed to be video by 2020. And so Instagram is very much prioritizing video over just static photos. And so I really do suggest, if you aren't comfortable with stories, just know that we all have been there. I used to be so shy when I got in front of the camera and so uncomfortable, but it gets better the more you do it. I promise. I was not a drama or theater kid. I may sound extroverted, but getting in front of the camera was so uncomfortable for me. And I promise it gets better on those stories. And the stories are really going to be what sets you apart in your business. Because you just have such a longer form than a photo with a caption to really connect with your audience. And so for a personal brand, well, really both of these work for you guys. For a personal brand, this might look more like building connectedness with the person, building connectedness with you, those personality traits that make you you. But this is also relevant to you guys as well. This also could be a great space for behind the scene team features, client features. Look at what Susie accomplished this week. She has been so committed since January, and she just hit this milestone. It's a great way to champion people you're working with, but those serve as testimonials for you as well. I mean, I have testimonials that I share my stories all the time of the girls I have the privilege of working with, and I love to share about them. And then then I have, you know, my audience actually saying that and being like, oh, I kind of didn't realize that's what Kelsey offered. You know, people have to see. I think I've heard different metrics. I've heard 11, I've heard 18. You have to see content like 11 to 18 times now to make a decision. And so you can't post those testimonials too often. I mean, what one person sees one day, they're going to miss the next. And so again, we're in a time of ever-changing algorithms. We're not seeing every single post someone makes, and neither are your followers seeing every single post you make. So you get to use these stories to post more often, to show up more frequently, and Instagram is prioritizing those stories over everything. Now, I think they'll also start prioritizing Instagram TV, but I don't think you have to dive into that yet. I'm certainly not. I think it's great, but I don't post 9-minute videos ever. And so if it feels natural to you, great. If it doesn't, I think it's okay right now, because I think Instagram tried to launch it to compete with YouTube, and it hasn't landed quite like they expected. So I think it's okay to watch Instagram TV and see how it pans out. I don't think it'll really go anywhere, but it might not be as huge as like when they release stories. Like right now, it is so important to be on stories. Instagram TV, I think it is okay if you kind of aren't ready to dive into that. It's just not another place I want to create content for at the moment, but it can be incredible. And Instagram is prioritizing anything video, so it can't hurt. Stories. Also a great space for calls to actions, directions to link in bio, or the swipe up feature. And guys, I've been so talkative. I'm going to speed it up so I have more time for Q&A. So I really encourage you to use these call to action features. It's how Instagram also helps understand that your posts are being engaged with, and so they matter. So those polls you see on photos, the yes or no, the stickers where you can ask a question, all of that is measuring your audience's interaction with you and whether they like your content, thus ranking your content higher in people's feeds. So that might sound like convoluted and a lot. It is a lot, but just know calls to actions are always a yes in your stories. This space is going to be your primary place of focus. Only 5 to 10%. You might see some better stats than this in your insights section if you are a business profile. But on average, only 5 to 10% of your posts in your feed are being seen. It's crazy. And so Instagram is most definitely optimizing the story space over the actual feed. You get so much more bang for your buck posting there and showing up there. And again, you don't have to be glossy and polished. Like, show up a sweaty mess. People actually like that better than overly glossy, polished professional photos. And so, really hopping on this stories is important. I have a typo. Sorry, guys. The more engagement you have in your stories, the more views you will accrue. That means you should be using these calls to action here to initiate conversation with your audience. This is where attraction marketing works. You don't have to like come out and directly say like, I'm doing this program. You can talk about the program. Then you can say, hey guys, ask me any questions you have about my fitness routine. And that's where you get those conversations started, because then you can send them a DM and answer, or have your assistant do it, have your kid do it, your little sister, if you need to delegate some of those DMs, because I know it can be a lot. But creating that conversation on your stories to where people actually message you before you have to cold reach out to them is a great way to create that conversation and to start kind of being able to move into inviting them to join a program. So I really believe in building that connectedness. We're going to quickly blaze through how to position yourself as an authority on Instagram. But again, I really want you guys to kind of come back to building out that brand story, because it will help you communicate who you are and how you can serve that follower. Moving on, how to create authority. It really comes down to creating original content. I want you guys to spend some time planning out your content for the week or the month ahead. This helps you tell your brand story as a whole. I don't know about you, but I post a lot in lines at Starbucks or Walgreens or whatever. And sometimes just the depth of who you are really gets lost when you're posting in a rush all the time. And so by planning a little bit, and guys, I'm an Enneagram 7. I like freedom. I don't like a lot of planning, but sometimes it really serves you well to do it. And so take time, maybe on Mondays or once a month. If you can get a month scheduled out, that's amazing. And really make sure you're covering those 4 key factors within your top 9 photos. And that really, again, will help you communicate your story. My app of choice for this is Planoly, but I think Plan's great, Later's great. Hootsuite has this functionality now as well, but it's not in a grid. I like that Planoly is essentially a mock-up of Instagram, and it allows you to drag and drop those photos to make sure they look good together. My only thing with Planoly is I do not suggest auto posting. It's a functionality and it is Insta legal, but I have noticed a pretty significant decrease in engagement with scheduled posts. And that's nothing Instagram will cop to or admit, but there's enough articles on the internet where other people have noticed where I'm like, I think this is a thing. And so if you need to go on vacation, schedule them on Planoly and enjoy your life. But if you can, plan them in Planoly, but just manually push them through, I think that will be better for your engagement. And then, again, remember to cover those 4 key factors as you plan out your content. Expertise, personality, practicality, and unique value proposition. Your content may be the primary focus, but next, I really cannot harp enough. Kelsey and Dean know I'm always tweaking this section. Getting in front of the right people is a close second, and that takes testing. With any marketing, you're going to have to do some split testing, and some seasons are better than others, but you really have to determine who those right people are for you, because it is better to have 500 relevant followers than 5,000 fluffy numbers. Your content matters as much as the audience cares for it. A lack of conversion could point to an issue in the wrong audience seeing it. And again, this is stuff I personally, from my personal brand, have to navigate every day. I might have something that works for a season, and those people just aren't connecting with me anymore. And so I have to go look around somewhere else. And it's just a little bit of tweaking and refining. I do the same thing with email marketing. I do the same thing with Facebook ads. Just marketing in general requires a little bit of that tweaking and refining, finding that sweet spot of where your audience is hanging out, and where they're interactive, because they might be somewhere but not be that active. And so again, it's a lot of testing, but by getting in front of the right people, that's where you're going to see conversions. Much like you defined your customer segment and their habits for your business plan, you really have to do the same for Instagram or really any social media platform. And so when you're kind of interacting with new people, or maybe doing a collaboration or a partnership, or liking people's photos, you really want to zoom in on people who are the right kind of fit for your audience. Like I used the example earlier, Coca-Cola is not spending their marketing dollars at Whole Foods or their time. It is a much better bang for their buck to market to people at the movie theater who can get up out of their seat and go buy a Coke Icy right then and there. So we want you to market to the right kind of people. I want you to ask yourself, where's your ideal follower hanging out on Instagram? I don't recommend other coaches. And so think through kind of what makes your brand you. Who are you following along with? They could be influencers. They could be brands. I have clients name the Container Store, anything from the Container Store to an author to, their favorite clothing line ever. And so I think you could make a list of subcategories even and say, we're going to try this segment for a while and see what that yields. We might interact with their followers. We might do some follow strategies. We might do a collaboration with them, whatever your preferred route of growth is. But we're going to work on this segment and see, do these people want to come back and hang out with me? And then we're going to move on to the next segment and test that. And we're going to stick with what converts best. So I want you to think through where your ideal followers hanging out on Instagram. And then lastly, a final way to establish authority is to partner with people in your industry, not other coaches, because then you'll end up with followers of lots of coaches. This will allow you to borrow someone else's clout as you establish yourself as an expert. And so I suggest listing a few accounts you could potentially reach out to for a collaboration to build your credibility as a leader in your industry. So again, not other coaches here, but maybe someone who has an audience that's really complementary to yours, to where maybe you do, where you hop on each other's stories for the day. You do an Instagram takeover and she cross-pollinates, or he cross-pollinates with your audience, or you cross-pollinate with theirs, and it's a win for both of you guys. Now, if you have 5,000 followers and you're reaching out to 100,000 followers, I don't suggest that. I suggest reaching out to someone you're kind of running neck and neck with and partnering with people who are your peers, because then it's truly a win for both of you. It's a win for that person you're collaborating with to have some touch points with your audience and you with theirs. I actually have been having a lot of fun with collaborations lately. And whereas in the past it hasn't been a main focus for my brand, it actually has been a huge focus in the last few months. And I'm doing a lot of testing, specifically with email collaborations, but some of the bonus entries are come follow us all on Instagram. And so I am a big fan of partnering with people and just reaching out with people who don't have the same kind of audience as you. They're not a competitor, they're just complementary. That's why you see fitness influencers work with like water bottle companies. It's a win to cross-pollinate both of those audiences. And so I think collaborations are often underestimated, but very powerful. They don't have to be something you focus on hours on each week, but it could be a very simple strategy to kind of borrow clout and credibility from someone else's audience and do the same for that person or brand you're collaborating with. So as we wrap up, I want you to remember it's through building this connectedness that we turn followers into raving customers. Why? Because they finally understand, and I should add, trust you. And then before we go, I have to harp on this one more time. My number one suggestion as you build your presence online through Instagram or any social media platform is to drive your followers to email to your email list. Your likelihood to make a sale dramatically increases when you sell to your email list versus to a broader social media audience. And when you move them to your email list from that freebie we put in your bio, they become a hot lead that is much more likely to convert. Email conversions versus social media conversions are much higher. A, because a lot of people don't take the time to build an email list. And B, now, 2 years ago, we probably could have sold, cold sold, you get the gist, with a lot more success. But we are in the trenches of Instagram, and people are selling left and right, and people are just tired as consumers. And so they're not converting directly from Instagram as much. So we want to get those followers over to your email and talk to them. It's called nurture, like the formal term in marketing is nurturing your tribe, delivering them. I don't sell to my audience every week in my email. I send them to a free podcast episode or a blog post or, a freebie, like a PDF I put together. I give them content that's relevant to what I do sell, but also a great resource for free to my people on my email list. And then when I do sell something, they're much more prepared. And for you guys, when a new program drops, that's the perfect time. You've been building this connectedness with people through your social media following, and then hopefully have moved a small portion of them to your email list. Don't get discouraged. It's a small portion that actually comes over to your email list, but they convert. And so I'm a big fan. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but we can just open the floor for Q&A. I have rambled on for an hour, and so I would love to just answer any questions.
Well, first of all, Kelsey, that was amazing.
I was so glad.
And I love that you shared like the 4 factors when you look at your, like the first 9 photos, like sharing that. I've never heard of it like that or explained that way. And so that was really helpful for even me to go, okay, like I need to look at my feed and look to see if all of this was there. So yeah.
I'm so glad. I hope you guys found that helpful. Okay. We're getting some questions. Let's see. How do you feel about STEM Social and other things like that? So I haven't used STEM Social. And I do, I'm in no way I'm not trying to sell my services to anyone. So I'm just saying this from a full place of like, this is what I do compared to that. And these are the differences I see. I run a follow-unfollow agency, but I have humans doing that. And so I'm not against the method of STEM Social. And it's certainly cheaper than having humans do that. I'm just scared of it. And so even with my clients, I have a disclaimer of this is a gray hat technique for Instagram. I sent out an email in November that is, hey, this is Instagram's stance on following and unfollowing, which STEM Social does, or liking people's accounts in mass quantities. I don't know if they have multiple routes, but either way, both are gray hat techniques. But for as cheap as STEM Social is, there's no way that's real humans. It's probably a bunch of iPads sitting in a warehouse. And so when Instagram comes for them, they're going to go after the big companies first. They did it with Mass Planner maybe 2 years ago, and they just shut it down. They crushed it because what Instagram actually wants is, it's owned by Facebook. They want to make sure you're paying them to grow through ads. And again, there are still some routes through STEM Social, Jumper. I think there's one that's like 21. Instagrass was the one. Yes, Dean and Kelsey. And so they came for them and they crushed Instagrass and Mass Planner. And they didn't crush the users of those accounts, but I even saw it this year. Someone using Jumper, I know, got shut down, and Instagram just gave them a little note that said you weren't using Instagram's community guidelines. And so I'm really scared of these cheaper services that do some of the similar techniques that I perform. Like I perform similar actions of following and unfollowing on my own accounts, on my client accounts, but I've never seen anyone shut down. And I am a little scared of these programs that have to be computers because of the sheer volume of people they offer services to, and the low price that it has to be computers. And so I'm just a little scared of it. But I have only seen someone shut down through Jumper, so I don't know about STEM Social, but they're pretty similar. So just know that. Okay, let's see. Yes to showing up in stories. It gets better, just like talking to your best friends. I totally agree, Shelby. From planning content ahead of time, Lindsay, do you recommend shooting for one post a day, or what is a good goal with this? I think this is a great question. I think you don't even have to do one post a day. I think if you have the energy to do one post a day, show up in your stories. That's the best bang for your buck, time and money wise. But if you even look at the top 5 Instagram educators, they're not even posting once a day anymore. And so I always am kind of observing like, okay, like they're not even posting once a day. And so while this used to be the golden rule, and I think some educators used to even teach like 5 times a day, which that is just, don't do it. Save yourself from that headache. If you have the energy for once a day, I think that's great, but I think it doesn't even have to be once a day. I think it could be a few quality posts a week. And again, you're seeing some of the top Instagram educators, like the OGs of the Instagram education space. Hillary Rushford is someone that I followed along with since I got started, and she posts maybe once a week. She also has 200,000 followers, so you might want to show up more than, that, because you might need to be a little scrappier. But again, I think if you only have a set amount of energy to allot, give it to your Instagram stories. And I don't post every day anymore either. And I'm so thankful that's over, because I don't want to. And so,
Hey, Kelsey, to expand on that question. So I totally agree with you on for a seasoned Instagram influencer or a follower, but what would you suggest for someone that maybe is fairly new out when building their Instagram for an influencer standpoint? Maybe they use Instagram before for just posting cute pictures of their dog or their kids and, have 50 followers. Someone that's trying to build their Instagram to maybe change the whole look of their Instagram. Would you still suggest like posting once a week, once a day? What would you say?
I think a few times a week would be ideal. And if you can do daily, awesome. If you can, at least average 3 a week, you're doing great. But if you just want to change the look of your feed, it's not crazy to just do like 3 1 hour, wait till midday, 3 another hour, and then wait till midday, then 3 later in the day, and just knock out reformatting your feed in a day. Again, you're kind of blowing up the followers you have, but they'll be fine. You might lose 10, and you can kind of change the whole look of your feed if you really need an aesthetic change, which I've totally done. If you scroll back through my feed, you will see significant shifts in color schemes, because I'm like, I've evolved out of this season, and I want to transition into kind of my look and my aesthetic. So I think that's a great question, Dean. And if any of y'all have any like questions, like piggybacking on that, please pop them in. Okay, let's see. I think we have a few email list questions, so I'll ask that. One question Stephanie asked, how do you create an email list? And then Aaron, kind of, would it be a good idea to put it into a Google Doc? So in building an email list, would it be a good idea? Oh, okay, like a fit application. Yes, so you can capture email lists in a lot of different ways. And one thing you guys could do kind of in your spare time this week is Pinteresting is a great way to figure out what people are offering for free to capture emails. So if you search around like fitness, health, food, nutrition, workouts, like you'll find an array of freebies there, and people create those freebies to get your email. And so you'll start noticing it everywhere after this. But you could have an application where, of course, you're getting their email there, but then you could also have things like, give me your email, snag my free 5-day guide, or, I want my grocery list, swipe up or click the link in bio to grab it this week. really try to rotate through things I promote in my stories, because it's really easy for me to just post like, take my hashtag quiz in my stories, and swipe up is not as vital as everyone thinks it is. If you just need to say link in bio or DM me and I'll send you the link, once they get over to that link, they'll give you their email to get access to whatever it is you're offering it for free. And then MailChimp is a great space to house those emails where you're capturing them. It's free for 2,000 subscribers. So love MailChimp. Some of the biggest influencers I know, sometimes I'll just click unsubscribe at the bottoms of emails to see what email provider they're using. And Rachel Hollis, love her or hate her, she is huge and still uses MailChimp. And so I think it's a totally great platform. The first 2,000 people are free. And so again, if you kind of want some inspiration on freebies you could offer, get on Pinterest and your mind will be blown. You will have so many options and directions you could go in. And once you start clicking through, you'll be like, oh, this pin goes to someone's blog post and they have 3 places for me to click a button to give them my email. And then the first email they send me is that free guide or that PDF. And it's just a whole nother world when you start diving into offering a freebie for people's emails. But it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It can be super simple. You're not giving away the whole story. You're just giving away the tip of the iceberg. Okay, let's see. Do you suggest follow unfollow method to find out where people are hanging out, or how do you find your people? I'm an advocate of the follow unfollow method, but you guys have to decide whether that's a right fit for you. I think it is. Right now, I think it's the best bang for your buck, time and money wise, because my goal would not be to teach you guys a strategy where you like 4,000 photos a day. Like, you'll have lives, and I don't think it's an appropriate use of your time to be spending all of that time engaging on Instagram. I think that's just a poor business strategy and a bad marketing strategy. And so I think that, again, you have to really weigh out. I've had even clients try it for a month, and then after a month just say, I can't do this. This is not my method. It doesn't feel good. But for me, and I think now in 2019, it was a little bit more like poorly viewed a few years ago, but now people kind of really recognize the method a lot more. And so I rarely get like a DM where people are offended. And if I do, it's way the exception to the rule. And so I think it's the best bang for your buck. You've got a few options growth-wise, collaborations, which I believe in and do. And so I think it's a great partnership. And you might need to kind of get those first few thousand followers to start those collaborations. But when you have 200 followers, you can do a collaboration with someone with 200 followers, And so collaborations, following and unfollowing. You can also, I think the method, Hillary Rushford, Kelsey said she likes collaborations too. We'll have to talk. But a method Hillary Rushford teaches is liking 3 photos and commenting on 1. But again, guys, that gets into an insane amount of time. And then her strategy around that is, well, if you don't want to spend your time, hire someone in the Philippines to do it. And I did do that because I have a virtual assistant in the Philippines who's amazing. And even in 40 hours a week of liking and commenting, it was not moving the needle a fraction of what following and unfollowing was. Because I'm always testing and trying to figure out what I could offer clients as an alternative if they don't like that, or if the ability to follow unfollow goes away, because I do think it will eventually. And so I will just say that liking and commenting strategy as a growth strategy, I really don't see how it could yield anywhere close to follow unfollow results without having multiple people doing it 40 hours a week, because one person doing it 40 hours a week did nothing. And so, again, you can totally go that route, but it is very time consuming or a huge monetary investment, because again, even for me, I pay my virtual assistant $4 an hour, which I did my research is a very appropriate wage in the Philippines, but that's $160 a week. That is over $500 a month and didn't move the needle. So if I have multiple people liking and commenting for me, it would cost me so much money. I couldn't even charge clients an appropriate rate. And so again, you can eat your heart out, liking and commenting on people's stuff all day, but it's not my route of choice. And then again, you've got the follow and follow. You've got different companies who can do that for you, or you can do it. Someone mentioned Cleaner and Captivate. That's exactly what I use. It's the best software I've found. It's not perfect, but it's the best I found. And you're talking to someone who used to do it manually, and my arms would hurt up to my shoulders every night. And so I really do like Cleaner and Captivate. That's what I use for clients. It's a dance. It's still a dance of timing. We've got quite the elaborate setup, but I think it's the best bang for your buck. Even as a beginner, like they've got a fantastic help center if you want to kind of go through it and read kind of those docs. Okay, let's see. Instagram stories, how many a day should I post? I read only about 2 to 3 and log out. Log out. I don't know about logging out of Instagram, but if that's what you meant, let me know, Christine. But I think 2 to 3 is great. But there are some people that I am deeply committed to following their 17 stories all the way through. And I feel like I know them. I know the nuances of their life. And so if that's you and you have the energy to create 17 stories in a day, you do it, because people will love feeling interwoven and connected to your life. I personally don't. I wish I had more energy to post on stories, but I think 2 to 3 is just fine. If you post once, that's great. Do I recommend filters for a cohesive look? Yes, but not Instagram filters. I think, again, we're kind of moving into a space where you certainly have filters, but they're more realistic filters. And so it looks, it still might be moody, or it still might be bright and airy, but like Kelsey's saying, presets. And you can buy presets pretty much anywhere online. Gosh, I'd have to get a list together of presets I own. I think I own Carrie Ray's. I don't know if you guys have any that you love, Kelsey. There's Alexa Jean's a big preset girl. Almost every blogger you probably follow has done some collaboration with someone they're selling presets with. Every Bachelor contestant has presets. And so you can find them anywhere, and they usually come with a tutorial of how to install them on your phone, but they're like a lighter filter. So they're not so harsh. And again, followers are really craving a natural look on Instagram, which I'm preaching to the choir. Like I've got to like add in more day-to-day stuff. I'm just really bad at taking photos day-to-day. But people are craving just real life. And so presets make it feel like a little bit beautified real life photo on your iPhone. Yeah, presets. Google those to buy them. But if you Google right here, if you Google Alexa Jean, it's right above your comment. That's probably one of the top filters or presets creators. And she has a little bit saturated orange tones look. So if that's not your vibe, like you can certainly find someone who's got a moodier tone, but it's great because these preset packs have like essentially 10 different filters, but they all flow together most of the time. So, you take a picture in a dark room or one out in natural light, they've got a different preset for you, but it's all in the same color scheme. So they set you up well, and you can do it from your phone. Often you buy those preset packs and then install it on Adobe Creative Cloud on your app. And I think Adobe Creative Cloud's free. If not, you can get an app-only subscription for like $10, and it's worth it. Preset on Etsy for $4. That's great. Exactly. It does not need to be super expensive. So you might find one for $4 that's just as good as the $60 preset, to be honest. And so if you kind of do your due diligence, you'll find your vibe. There's a plethora. Lightroom's free. Okay, cool. Lightroom's free. We have it, so I couldn't remember if we have it for my husband's design stuff or I had to pay for it presets. Okay. How do you change the colors of your feed? A certain app as regards to a filter app. Again, number one app, Lightroom CC for your phone, and you can install these presets. And anytime you buy a preset pack from a creator who creates them, they'll have a tutorial for you to install them. And okay, guys, I think I don't see any other questions, but I'm wide open if y'all have anything.
Just out of curiosity, who was the Casey girl you were talking about? I don't follow her.
Blogalotties.
Blogalotties?
Let's see if that's her handle. She's so fun. Her personality, she's done a great job of really building in her.
Found her.
Yeah, she's great. I think she does I've used her as an example for years because I think she's really stayed true to herself. Kind of something she's really built into her niche has been body positivity, because she's had some serious, which is crazy. She's beautiful, like body shaming for having any curves. So that's been a personality component of her brand. And then all these extra businesses she has in her profile have been launched since having an Instagram that blew up. So it really did pave the way for her. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, guys, I've loved joining you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. Like, we can't thank you enough. And this was so valuable. And we will be bringing this back to the rest of our team. So thank you.
Y'all are awesome. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good night.
Y'all have a good night.
You too.